Hey everybody, I'm back with a new movie review, and today I'll be covering one of the most iconic, most classic of films in American history, The Wonderful World of the Wizard of Oz. Based on the American classic book of the same name. This is directed by Victor Fleming, starring the ever loving Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale, one of the most iconic female characters in history. Frank Morgan as Professor Marvel slash the Wizard of Oz. Ray Bolger as Hunk slash the Scarecrow. Burt Lair as Zeke slash the Cowardly Lion. Jack Haley as Hickory slash the Tin Man. Billy Burke as Glinda the Good Witch. Margaret Hamilton as Elmira Gulch slash Wicked Witch of the West. Charlie Greatwin as Uncle Henry. And Clara Blendick as Auntie M. Now, before I get into it, if you like the content I'm giving you guys, please, if you want to check out my Patreon, if you want to further support the channel and check out my other channels as well, you can follow the links in the description below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think of The Wizard of Oz if you've seen the film recently. The reason I started doing a review of this film is because I think the Wicked films just came out for some people already. So I figured I've been wanting to talk about The Wizard of Oz for at least a good long while, but just could not figure like a good time to do it. So I figured this is a perfect time as any. Why not talk about it? I just did a review of Oz the Great and Powerful, which should be up on my YouTube channel. So I figured now is the perfect time as any to talk about The Wizard of Oz, one of the most iconic films ever. Now, before I get into the brief rundown of the story, I do want to acknowledge the fact that this is one of the most acclaimed films in history. Honestly, it's in the Smithsonian for a good reason. It won an Academy Award for Best Original Score by Herbert Stotthart. Best Original Song of by Over the Rainbow, and Academy Juvenile Award, an honorary award for Judy Garland for her outstanding performance as a screen juvenile during this. And in terms of American Film Institute list, this film is number 6 of the Film Institute's 100 years of 100 movies. Number 43 for 100 Thrills. The Wicked Witch of the West ranked number 4 best villains. We got Over the Rainbow, number 1 song out of 100 songs in film. Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead is actually number 82. 100 movie quotes, it has 3 here. Total, I've a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore, is number 4 of that quote. Number 23 is There's No Place Like Home. And number 99, I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Number 3 for greatest movie musicals. Number 26, 100 Cheers. Number 10 for out of 100 movies, the 10th anniversary edition. Number 1 fantasy film. Other honors uh, the film was one of the inaugural group of 25 films added to the National Film Registry list. Rolling Stone's 100 Maverick movies is number 22. It's ranked number 32 in 100 greatest films. Number 14 for the Village Voices 100 best films of the 20th century. Nominated for the Palme d'Or 1939, is number 41 for Greatest Film Poll of Directors for Sight and Sounds. Is number 83 total film 100 greatest films. The British Film Institute ranked it second on its list of the 50 films you should see by the age of 14 after Spirited Away. The film placed 86 on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments. It topped Total Film's 23rd Weirdest Films. The film was listed on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. The Observer ranked the film's songs and music at the top of the list of 50 greatest film soundtracks. The British Film Institute changed its list to 50 films to see by age 15, updated, calling Oz the most wonderful musicals. The film was ranked number 2 in Variety's inaugural list of the 100 greatest movies of all time. Parade has it ranked number 5 on the list of 100 best movies of all time. Comic Book Resources have it ranked number 4 in the best movies of all time. IndieWire has it ranked number 7 in the list of 63 best movie musicals of all time. So you gotta, give it up to this film, man. The ruby slippers, Dorothy's dress, and other costumes are in the Smithsonian for just iconic memorabilia of all time. So yeah, I had to give this movie its props, because it just, for going back all the way to 1939, because a lot of people had a misconception it's like the first movie to be debuted in color, but it wasn't really the first one. It was one of the first few, but it's definitely the one that did the best in terms of utilizing Technicolor for the first time for the big screen. So it has, this movie deserves all the respect. Now, saying all that, I have to, break down my critiques, because I haven't seen this film since I was a young kid. So it's fun to revisit it after so long. So it's like, okay, how well does this movie hold up? In 2024 standards. So, of course, we begin in black and white, essentially, or sort of black and white, more like, brown and white-ish color, where Dorothy is coming home, and we're introduced to the farmhands and Auntie Em and Uncle Henry. The farmhands being Hunk, Zeke, and Hickory, and Auntie Em and Uncle Henry. And according to the film, Dorothy is like 17 years old, I guess. So it's kind of like a young kid. And she is running towards everybody, trying to explain about her day and what happened with the neighbor, played by Margaret Hamilton, Almira, where her dog Toto bit her And of course, she threatened Dorothy and the dog and everything like that. And of course, as she goes home trying to explain what happened, I didn't notice this before. I didn't know Dorothy was so freaking annoying. It's very whiny. And I can't help but think about Luke Skywalker in a little bit, because there's some parallels between Luke Skywalker and uh, Dorothy a bit, because they both come across kind of whiny. They live in like a desert essentially as farmers and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a set of cards called the Cosmo cards where Konami combine a lot of characters from both franchises together. They kind of align pretty well, like Dorothy with, mixed with Luke Skywalker. You got like the Scarecrow mixed with C-3PO, Tin Man with R2-D2, Darth Vader and Wicked Witch of the West. It's just like there's some parallels, and I love that idea, and I really wish they add more support to the Cosmo cards, because they're really good cards, or at least a cool idea that you can do a lot with that. And I really want to actually play with those kind of cards, because they look so fun. Maybe not competitively, but just to play with it a bit, because that is just so much fun. And it's like there's so much lore involved. Well, definitely for Star Wars, but definitely more than we think with the Wizard of Oz, that you can actually do a lot with that and make a legit solid deck out of it. But yeah, there's like a lot of parallels that we didn't even realize until the Yu-Gi-Oh kind of be the one to point that out. Like, there is solid parallels between Wizard of Oz and Star Wars. It's kind of wild when you think about it. But yeah, I didn't notice how whiny and annoying Dorothy could be. It's like, wow, she is just like got like a, and not to talk crap about the character. I mean, it's like, but it's just, you gotta put your feelings aside about your love for this character and just step outside of that for a moment and just like think about it. This kid's, got an annoying voice, and it's like, oh, Uncle Henry, you would not believe what that mean old Mara did. Uncle Owen, about Uncle Owen. Like, you see the parallels I'm talking about here. Like, Uncle Henry. I was like, did you, like, girl, do you see him? Now, they should, like, take a moment to ask, what has gotten her so riled up. But they're farmers in, like, early 1900s Kansas, mind you. So they gotta, it's like just maybe a couple of years shy from when WW2 is about to start, or in the midst, or early on. So it's like back-breaking hard work era, Great Depression, type of time here. Of course, they ain't trying to like hear like whatever nonsense is coming out the kid's mouth at the time when they're trying to get work done. But of course, she's a young teenager. She, teenagers at that age ain't, cognitively aware that, okay, the adults are busy. Probably give it a few minutes before, so they can have their time, because they mentioned that they count the chickens and everything like that. And it's like don't bother us right now, Dorothy. Trying to, you made me lose count. It's like, yeah, I probably should get a minute, kid. But we have to meet, some farm hands and everything like that. But then the mean old Elmira shows up with a court order to take Toto away from by court order, or at least like a written document by the sheriff to take away Toto because Toto bit her earlier. And of course, Dorothy's upset by this, but okay, this might sound like a very a-hole thing to say, but, and despite her being kind of like a bitch about it, she's kind of in the right. And even when the farmhands point out to Dorothy, you know that, like, you barely have this dog on a leash, and you know this, lady's a crabby old bat, and you walking near her place, and you know Toto just gonna run into her yard because you ain't got that freaking thing trained for some reason, let alone not having it on a leash. It's obviously way before leash laws was a thing. And it's like, and the dog bit her. And it's like, maybe she was a little brash about it, but how many times did the dog go out and bite somebody? This can't be the first time. But it's like, first of all, she, okay, she might be in the right about that part, but she taking it upon herself. Yeah, sure, she got like a written paperwork from the sheriff, but the sheriff should be coming down himself to get the dog, or at least bring some some dog catchers with him, or somebody from the pound to retrieve the dog. Why this woman has to take it upon herself to do it herself? And there's like a line given by Auntie M mentioning how, like, she, clearly she got some level of money. She talking about she owns most of the town and what have you. So she's pretty much like Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. Matter of fact, these two probably make a good couple because they're just evil and just bitter, sick in their soul type of people. But I'm like, yeah, it sucks. It's kind of mean and very mishandled of a situation, but it's not like she's wrong. It's like, bitch, like, I don't call her a bitch, but like, Dorothy, your dog bit somebody, and it's clearly probably not the first time, because otherwise she wouldn't have been bothered to go to get some kind of written order from the sheriff to come collect the dog. At the very least, it probably would have been a warning or something like that. But clearly, there's been, I'm inferring this isn't the first time, given the fact that when the farmhands mentions she should know better about bringing that dog, walking by that old lady's house. So this, and running into her yard, clearly this is not the first time. This dog clearly just need to be put on a leash at the very least. But Dorothy goes crying in her room. Amara collects the dog and rides, her bicycle, but the dog escapes and runs back to the house. Then Dorothy kind of freaks out, thinking like, oh, well, they're going to eventually know that you're gone. They're going to be coming back. We better run away, because honestly, it's a very spot on thing, because you would expect a child with that kind of mindset in this era. Hell, there's been times when I've seen movies in like the 80s or the 90s with kids with this kind of mindset. I was like, well, this is a rational thing. We got to run away so they can't find you and take you away from me. So they attempt to run away. Dorothy comes across this traveling a salesman or something, Professor Marvel, or he's like a fortune teller or something like that. Clearly he knows Dorothy well enough, and he pretends like he's seeing like into the future and says like, oh, well, I see your aunt and she's heartbroken, and all this other stuff, just to guilt Dorothy into not running away and going back home, just to save her any kind of hardship, because she's kind of irrational. And I kind of like that. It's rather than trying to spend this whole time trying to convince her was a bad idea, he kind of, you know, he treats her with a level of respect. I'm not trying to insult her intelligence in a way, but he, just kind of placates to that. But it's like, oh, well, I should read your fortune, before we go off, and travel. Because like a kid want to go join the circus to run away kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that, but we gotta see what our future holds about that. And then, and of course, she's a naive, gullible young girl. But, he convinces her that it's probably a good idea to stay with the family so you can avoid any kind of heartache from the family. But as she's running back home, a tornado's swinging by, or Twister, as one of the hands points out. But somebody called it something else. I forgot what the word they used, but it's like, okay, which is it, a Twister or this other thing? You wasn't very consistent with that. But while the aunt and uncle and the farmhands, try to get into the shelter, the aunt could not find Dorothy, and she's freaking out. But they don't have any time to look. The Twister's approaching, so and good cinematography. It's like you feel like, oh my god, I don't know what kind of wind machines they were using at the time, but it really feels like they was about to be blown off their butts. But Dorothy was just arriving in the house, and seeing this Twister, her first instinct isn't to first go to the shelter. Clearly where it is. But you spend like at least a good minute wasting time going through the house room. You don't think like, okay, let's see if they going straight to the shelter. And on top of that, I'm not sure how loud the Twister can be. I've never been near one like that. But she's banging on the door of the the area. And it's like, okay, how loud is the wind must be blowing that they can't hear her calling out for help. So she runs back in the house into her room, where the Twister picks up the entire house, and she looks through the window and sees all this like stuff blowing by, and a cow, and people waving to her like it's all nonchalant. Like it looks like I'm watching some kind of film reel that's going through the wind. But then she sees Amara riding her little bicycle, and then it morphs into the Wicked Witch. Then debris hits her, and she ends up, blacking out. She wakes up. She walks out the door, and one of the best transition in film I've ever seen, where she just, is still in that grayish tone, but as she opens up the door, there's the color. Now, mind you, still seeing like the borders of inside the house as, this brownish gray thing, and you walk out, and then she's in her colors, and it's like, and it's like you're following her, and she's like, it's a good transition. Like, it's like there's no cuts to that, and it's like still amazing. It's very well done, honestly. It probably took a lot, especially back in 1939, or when it was probably being filmed. It was probably 1938. And then, and I almost blanked on the iconic song "Over the Rainbow." Now, it's still easily one of the best songs in the entire film. But when they get into Munchkin Land, I think they're kind of overdoing it. They're wasting time with like giving her all this carriage rides just to get her a few feet. It happens quite a few times here. They're kind of annoying. It's like, why bother with that? But then Dorothy meets Glinda, who points out that you uh, killed the Wicked Witch of the East, you see her body underneath the house and everything like that. And all the Munchkins in Munchkinland are rejoicing. They're just happy that you just inadvertently committed murder. You didn't mean to. You didn't know anything about this. You just happened to be there. But they're just super overjoyed. They're like, yeah, the Wicked Witch is dead. Unequivocally, absolutely dead. And what's with the Munchkin voices? Like, could they doing something with not computers, but like some kind of alteration, whatever tool they was using to get these little people / children who are playing the parts of Munchkins with these weird voices. Weird represent the lollipop kill. It doesn't even look like the voice is matching, honestly. And we hear that Lollipop Guild song, and it's just like they're holding a cigar in their mouth, like, we represent the Lollipop Guild. That it didn't line up. That always bugged me. And it's like, God, nothing lines up. Maybe most people could not sing, but they gotta have voices matching their little bodies. But it's just, yeah. I never was a fan of the Munchkins, honestly. But then the Wicked Witch of the West shows up in this red smoke and is annoyed that somebody killed her sister. So she tried to guess the ruby slippers, but Glinda transport the slippers onto Dorothy's feet. Now that it's on there, she's forbidden to take them off because the only thing that's protecting her from the Wicked Witch, pretty much like a protection barrier, essentially. And of course you get the iconic line, "I'll get you and your little dog too." So she escapes via Red Cloud. And so Dorothy needs to go to meet the Wizard of Oz if she wants to go home. And she got to follow the yellow brick road. Now, before I continue on, first and foremost, I think we need, as great as a lot of the songs are, I personally think they could have easily, well, I say that now, but these are iconic songs for a reason. But it's just, I'm not a musical guy, and I think a couple of these songs we don't really need. I think it's like kind of overdoing it a bit. And it's not like egregious or anything like that, but just like every 5 minutes is a song. Sometimes, like the whole Cowardly Lion song about him being a king, that's something I could easily get rid of. I mean, honestly, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If there's a particular song you think that could easily have been taken out because it's just a kind of like a pointless song, not one of the, doesn't really live up to most of the songs that's iconic. Because I think, the lying, being a king, that could just easily be taken out. I don't need that. Anyway, I also want to point out that, and this might be kind of simplifying things way too much, but the whole plot of this film is just some crazy old woman trying to steal another girl's shoes. And if you think about it, what about these shoes that is so important that she has to claim them? Does it double her power? Is that really specified? It's because, and it's another thing, that's her sister. You think by law, she owns the right to, like next of kin kind of situation. I know I'm overthinking this, but if you think about it, it's like those shoes does technically belong to like the Wicked Witch of the West because that was her sister. And Glinda had no right, honestly, to just, take it away and give it to some complete stranger. It's like, oh my God. You think like Glinda's kind of like the bad guy in this if you think about it. I was like, who are you to give somebody else's belongings that rightfully belongs to the next of kin. It's like, it's kind of wild to me if you really think about it. And the crux of the story is some woman who wants to get some shoes from another girl. And it's like, it's kind of sucked the epicness out of the entire film. If you really think hard about it. And it's like, wow. It's like, as I'm watching this, I'm like, wait a minute. This whole entire plot was just some crazy woman who wants to steal another girl's shoes that used to belong to her sister. And that was the whole crux of the story. It's like kind of wild when you think about it. It's like, man, that's the plot of the Wizard of Oz. That's the plot of the Wizard of Oz. Some crazy bitch man take some other girl's shoes. Wow. Oh my God. It's like, wow, that kind of sucked the epicness out of the entire film. But anyway, so she traveled along the Yellow Brick Road. And even though you got freaking carriages, you don't be bothered to give her a ride to the Emerald City to meet the wizard. But of course, the whole purpose of her learning some kind of lesson along this journey. So she meets up with the Scarecrow, who wants some brains because, the person who made him didn't bother to give him any kind of brains in order to be able to be effective in scaring the crows, or the fact that he can't even maneuver his body effectively because he have no cognizance of moving his body around like normal. But I do love this kind of profound line from the Scarecrow where it's like, when Dorothy asks, like, how can you talk if you don't have a brain? And he's like, I don't know. There's plenty of people with no brains who can talk. And it's like, I can't argue with that. And I want to keep that in mind until we keep that when we get to the end of the story, because there's something to these three people that will come collect on this journey. They eventually come across the Tin Man, who just coincidentally has an oil can nearby because he rusted up a year ago because he was trying to chop down a tree and it rained. So he kind of rusted there because he's made out of tin. So I guess they rust very easily. So they sprinkle some lubricant on there. And I can't help but think about like the baby oil for some reason. It's like, oh, God. Just ruin everything. Thanks a lot, Diddy. Just ruin everything. But they put some axle grease or whatever on him, his joints and mouth and everything like that, so he can be able to move. But when he was built, he doesn't have a heart, and he wants to be able to. He wants to ask the wizard in order to give him a heart. Then, after a brief confrontation with the witch, they end up coming across the Cowardly Lion, who is afraid of darn near everything, and he wants to join along to go meet the wizard, so the wizard can probably give him some courage. So using her crystal ball, she sees Dorothy's close to. No, I'm kind of jumping ahead here. They go to Emerald City. They manage to get inside to get an audience with the wizard, who looks like the Great Gazoo. And if you know the Flintstones, you know who the Great Gazoo is. And he says he will help them if they accomplish this task of bringing him the Wicked Witch's broom. So they go off on this journey to the Wicked Witch's castle, where the witch sends her flying monkeys to collect Dorothy because she needs her alive to get the slippers. They take her and the dog and they ravage the Scarecrow, but the other two managed to put them back together. Now we got Toto and Dorothy in the private chambers of the Wicked Witch, who can't get to the shoes because it has like a protective barrier. Toto manages to escape and tracks down the other three to lead them to the castle, which don't know why we need a dog nor do that. They should, be able to find the castle. They jump some guards who, by the way, I didn't even know this came from this movie, but you hear the guards, marching, and they do the oh. I knew about that sound. I did not even realize, I probably didn't remember. It came from The Wizard of Oz. It's a couple of stuff that I noticed here that isn't part of the most iconic stuff that I didn't realize, oh my God, did we get this from The Wizard of Oz this whole entire time? Didn't even remember. But they managed to sneak inside the castle and liberate Dorothy. And they get chased around by the Wicked Witch and the guards. And the witch, lights the Scarecrow's arm on fire. And coincidentally, there's like a bucket of water nearby for Dorothy to use and douse out the fire. But some of the water splashes on the Wicked Witch. Coincidentally, that's her greatest weakness, and she starts melting and does the iconic line, "I'm melting, what a world." And then these guards like, "You destroyed her. Like, the witch is dead. Oh, hell, Dorothy." And I'm thinking like, man, y'all disloyal little shits. And I was like, I know she was like the bad guy, but dang, it was like, I don't know. It just seems like, man, y'all ain't shit. I was like, but they excited because, clearly she was like a bad ruler, but it was kind of forced to do her bidding, I guess. So Dorothy takes the broom. Her and the gang goes back to Oz, delivers the broom, and this dude got the freaking nerve to say, like, come back tomorrow. It's like, I know y'all, like, because I almost snapped too. It's like, I know you ain't, and they all get very upset with him. Like, no, I ain't come back tomorrow. We need to, you made us a promise. We're going to handle this now. Then Toto finds the curtain and reveals, like, oh, this is like a regular dude. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain line. And of course, it's like, oh, this dude's a charlatan. And they demand what, they were promised. And of course, it's so cliche thing like, oh, you had the thing with you all along kind of situation. Because along this journey, these guys displayed skills that they say they always wanted, but they already had it with them. You see, like Scarecrow, at least a couple of times using some brains and plan out some stuff, like breaking in to the castle, using, there's like, to stop most of the guards, he uses the Tin Man's axe to drop a chandelier on them so they can try to make an escape. You see, the Lion displays some courage, during a face of potential death. He still goes with his friends to go save Dorothy despite, the danger involved. And then the Tin Man, display, heart, throughout all this ordeal. And, the wizard pointed that out, but they just needed this little symbolism to showcase the brain's heart and courage. Gives Scarecrow a degree of thinkology. That part is so freaking stupid. The title in and of itself is so stupid. But add on to the stupidity is the fact that, oh, you need a degree just to represent that you have the intelligence. And this dude, Scarecrow, is just like, it's like the square root of the hypotenuse. It's like, you don't even know what that means, do you? You just saying smart words, but you have no clue what they mean. I get it. It's supposed to be the symbolism aspect of it, but it's just like you tack on that stuff. It's just kind of like, I don't know. This thing's you made it stupid. And then he gives the Tin Man this clock-shaped heart. Or a heart-shaped clock. To represent like an actual heart that he possessed. And then give the a medal of courage to the Cowardly Lion, because he mentions, well, it's like, just because you're afraid of stuff doesn't mean that you lack courage. It means you understand the dangers of the world. There's plenty of people who are afraid of stuff but still manage to do certain things despite the fear. I think that's probably like the best lesson, in my opinion. These three end up, all their little lessons. That one was probably the most profound, where it's like, yeah, just as any cop or military personnel or firefighter, it's like, yeah, they face danger all the time. And it's the fact that because they still manage to go through it despite the fear shows the greatest amount of courage. So I really like that part. And of course, he mentions to Dorothy, like, I'm from Kansas as well. Just what a coinky dink. So I'm going to leave the three guys in charge. Well, me and Dorothy take the hot air balloon to go off on back to Kansas via hot air balloon. And now I'm thinking about it, because I did a review of Oz Great and Powerful, and it's like, okay, isn't the purpose with the Wizard of Oz that he has this facade showing that he's this ethereal entity instead of like a mortal man? But you kind of toss that completely to the side, and it's like, yeah, he's just a good regular dude, and everybody just kind of gloss over that. It's like, okay, you kind of like drop the entire facade for no apparent reason. But then Toto leaps out of the hot air balloon, and Dorothy had to chase after him. So he's no way for him to get back down after the wizard's flying up. It's kind of leaves that entire sequence is completely pointless now. And given the fact that it's a hot air balloon, you don't have no gizmo to release fire in order to, hence the word hot air balloon, to lower the balloon down so she can get back in. But Glinda shows back up saying that, the power to go home was with you all along. Oh, shut up. That entire thing, that always seems so stupid. I was like, okay, yeah, you wanted to learn this stupid lesson, but come on. This is like a lost child, essentially. Like I said, Glinda's probably like honestly, seems like the bad guy in this, because you giving somebody else's shoes away where lawfully doesn't belong to Dorothy, and then you trick Dorothy on this pilgrimage, essentially, instead of just telling her, just because you want her to learn some stupid lesson. It's like, click your heels 3 times and you get to go back home. It's so dumb. And then, of course, he wakes up in Kansas. It's no place like home, and everything like that. Sees her family and friends. It's like, I had this wonderful adventure and this wonderful dream, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. It's all this other stuff. And like, she missed her aunt and uncle and everything like that, and she's glad to be back home, and that's where the movie ends. But I think you have a loose end there, buddy, because what happened to Amira, who's supposed to be still collecting that freaking dog? There's still a sheriff's order about that. You kind of glossed over, left that completely open-ended. I was like, ugh. But despite my criticisms, mind you, because it's me thinking of my adult brain. This is like a fantasy film and enjoyed by millions, if not billions, throughout the ages. It's still one of the most iconic films today. It's still impressive cinematography, impressive acting and music, and it achieved so many things. So you can't knock it for that. I'm just having to point out the certain inconsistencies that it's fair to acknowledge. It doesn't take anything away from this iconic film. It's similar to like Back to the Future. It's still one of the most iconic films in history as well. Has many accolades, but it is not impervious to criticism. No movie is, despite the greatness of it. But anyway, that was The Wizard of Oz. Now that the Wicked movies out now, I think it's an appropriate time to revisit Oz the Great and Powerful and the original Wizard of Oz film, just to immerse yourself in this world. Now I imagine the Wicked movie is going to do well, especially during the since it's like a week before the Thanksgiving weekend. So I imagine it will do well, especially with Gladiator 2 out as well. It's doing well, but I'm not seeing either one of them. Well, I might see Gladiator 2 once it come out on cable or streaming, but I'm not going to see Wicked movie. I never cared for the musical. I heard great things, but I don't really care, especially with the controversy with like the person who plays the Wicked Witch. And I don't care for musicals, and I won't say I don't care for Ariana Grande, but it's just none of that stuff really, I'm not really hyped for. I'll definitely see it before I ever see the Barbie movie, because I'll tell you that much. But I don't really have any interest in it personally. But I do like Oz the Great and Powerful. Definitely love The Wizard of Oz, despite my criticism. But let me know what you guys think. Have y'all read the book? I never really read the original book of The Wizard of Oz before. I think we all seen the movie so much over the years that it kind of seems reading the book kind of pointless, But the book has some other features in it that was never displayed in the film, and only a little bit in Oz and Great and Powerful, and somewhat, I guess, in the Wicked musical or / film. We'll see. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit as I get back to playing some more Overwatch. And next week, I'll be wrapping up my November review month with 2 more food-related films before we'll start the December Christmas review month. I have a good list going up, so look forward to that. And I just wrapped up my review, my walkthrough of Black Myth Wukong. The entire walkthrough is up on my YouTube channel if you want to check out my gameplay and my review of the game and my experience of playing it. Also, look forward next month as I'll do a live stream of the Video Game Awards. Already gave my predictions with the nominations. I made a video about it just yesterday. So I went over each of the categories and what I think might win and what I hope might win. So look and check that video out. So anyway, I will see you guys later. Take care. See you all soon. Peace.